This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Wait. Hello. Hear me? So it's not recording?
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome to the April 15th, 2021 Board of Selectmen's meeting. We will open this meeting, time being 4:49. Eric will be here, our chair will be here a little bit later. He's running late. I'd like to call, well, I already did. Before we get started, if you are joining us virtually, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. Because space is limited due to social distancing requirements, we are providing access to the meeting via telephone and the GoToMeeting platform. Members of the public wishing to attend this meeting via phone call may call the following conference number at 1-866-899-4679, access code 817-026-717. Members of the public wishing to use the GoTo platform may access the meeting remotely using your smartphone, tablet, or computer at global.gotomeet.me/town-of-Tilton/Selectmen. This information can also be found on our website at tiltonnh.org under Meeting Schedules and Agenda Board of Selectmen. So at this time, would like to stand in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept gracious donation from James Johnston for the Tilton Senior Center for $300.
Ruggles second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up on our agenda is approving the minutes of 4/8. Anybody have any corrections, selections, or concerns? If not, I have one. Anybody? I have one where it says Selectman Constantino corrected her previous comment
Could you tell me where you're at?
on page 2 of 3, 2/3 of the way down under Selectmen's reports. Says Selectman Constantino corrected a previous comment, but there's no previous comment. So
Okay. Right.
perhaps maybe either you need to add the previous comment where
Yep.
I had suggested that we do it non-public, and we really didn't, if we were talking about the entire officers, we would probably need it in non-public, but we were only really talking about the sergeants at the time. That would be the only thing that I found.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of Thursday, April 8th, 2021 as amended.
Do I have a second?
Ruggles second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as corrected. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up on our list is Tim Pearson, our Finance IT Director, for closing on a police department bond.
Thank you very much. In your to be signed, you have 3 copies of the documentation required by our bond counsel and prepared by our bond counsel, reviewed by our bond counsel, and also the bank's compliance and legal group. And so there's 1 copy of the bond itself, and then 3 copies of all the other documentation. There is 1 form, which is an IRS form, that there's only 1 place to sign. And I would recommend the board designate one of the board members to sign in that position.
I'd make a motion that Pat Constantino sign for the Board of Selectmen on the IRS form.
I'll second that, but for discussion, is that the same paper that already has Eric on the underneath, or is that another form in there?
I didn't believe there was anyone listed on the
This
8038.
is an IRS form specifically, Pat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one just is a signature.
Right.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, got it.
So in any event, as you sign those, I will review those and make sure everything is signed before you leave tonight. And if there's anything missing, I can catch you before you exit the building. In any event, just as a reminder, the final amount of the bond is 4.15 million. It's a 20-year bond with 1.95% tax exempt interest rate and with no prepayment penalties. So it affords us a great deal of flexibility, and it can be refinanced, rolled into something else at some point if there were a lower interest rate available. And the actual closing and funding will occur on Tuesday, the 20th.
I didn't sign.
The actual funding and closing will occur on Tuesday, the 20th, when the documents are exchanged with the bank after our bond counsel has reviewed everything and submitted the opinion letter as well. The second item, and there is a sheet in your packets tonight from me, a memo regarding these 2 items, the signing of the bond and then also the accounting transfers. If you recall, the town meeting voted to have $290,000 put towards buying down the principal of the bond. And then also last week, you signed a document for the trustees to transfer from the bank the proceeds of the donations account. And the way it works accounting wise in our system, while that's all in the town's bank accounts, we maintain a whole separate fund for all the accounting of the police building and all the payments from it. So I need to make the accounting adjustments to allocate that 290,000 plus the $74,777.50 into that fund so that we have sufficient monies to pay for the end of work projects for milestone construction, the spring work, as well as our open items for the owner's issues that still have yet to be completed. So I did provide a sample motion, if you'd like to use that or something else in its place. But I would need your approval to make those accounting transfers.
This, I'll make a motion that we authorize the finance director to make the necessary accounting adjustments to reflect the use of the proceeds of the sale of the old police station, plus the balance of the donated funds remitted by the town of Tilton trustees for the completion of the police building project, with any residual funds remaining at the end of the project to be used to reduce the principal balance of the bond. We have a motion and a second discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Passed.
And that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
I don't.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We have, it's only 5 o'clock. You want to? Either one. Start with yours, because it's usually you're at the tail end. We would need to unseal it.
I don't think there was anything sealed. It was public.
Non-public, right?
It was no. Interim Sergeant Abe Gilman submitted a letter of interest for the permanent sergeant position. That was the position that was posted. There was the deadline, I believe, was last week. He was the only one to apply. So that being the case, it appears that that would make him the permanent. And I didn't know if you wanted to make an announcement to that effect.
Absolutely. So Sergeant Abe Gilman will be our permanent sergeant from April 8th, correct? When is the initial?
It was last Friday.
Last Friday.
So
Congratulations, Abe.
congratulations. Attorney prosecutor offer letter. I drafted that up to Steve Gann.
Gan,
Yeah, for
Gan
your
the man.
for your review and signature. So if you could sign that, I will forward it to him for his signature. And that's in your to be signed folder. The police chief search process. I sent you an email identifying the potential interviewers and a timeline for the process, and wanted to see where we're at with that. And I did make copies of that email in case you don't have it. Does anyone need a copy of it?
I'm fine with the names on the,
No, the names were good.
Yep.
Okay.
Scott, you're okay with that?
All set, yes,
Okay.
fine.
John, you're okay with that? Okay.
Okay.
That's
Good.
consensus, yes.
All right. Next item, Cobra Premium Relief. With the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 through Health Trust, we are able to offer a plan enrollment option to assistance eligible individuals. Currently, if a former employee signs up for Cobra, they can only sign up for the insurance that they had with the town. With this option, they could choose if they decided another plan that we might offer. And if you want to offer that option, I just need to sign off on that and send it in to Health Trust tomorrow.
But you-
The employee would still pay the premium though, even they
Correct.
were using our insurance plan.
Correct,
This
So they
actually,
could choose whichever one was less expensive for them.
correct.
this would actually benefit the retiree or
I mean, you're eligible for COBRA. The premium assistance plan that is being offered is only eligible to people who left involuntarily or had a reduction in hours. So they provided a report that I've looked over and I need to submit tomorrow, but there is no one that we have at this point who would be eligible for
Okay.
premium assistance. But this would open up to them the ability if they chose to, and it goes to December 2021. So if somebody left involuntarily between now and then, they would have that option.
okay. Board, how do you feel about Scott, John? You haven't weighed in.
No, I'm all set.
You all set? So consensus says yes on that.
Mhm.
We'll let Eric get settled on this. We're doing the town administration report because we're ahead of schedule before Abe comes in on the tree streets, Eric. So when you get settled, we'll pass it back over to you. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Okay, so the next item is we'll begin working on the updating the hazard mitigation plan, which is due. I think the last time it was updated was 2006. Lakes Region Planning Commission is helping us with that. I sent an email out asking they had identified the kind of categories of people that would be appropriate to be part of this committee. I have heard back from some. I think I might have heard from one selectman. Just wanted to check to make sure that you saw that email to see if anyone has any interest in serving on that committee. I think you responded, Joe. So if that's it, that's fine. Didn't know if anyone else wanted to be part of it. There's probably going to be about 4 meetings.
Do you know when those meetings are gonna be?
He hasn't set that up yet. I did let him know that Thursday nights are not good nights for that. So. All right, moving on then. It sounds like it's just Joe. I gave you a copy of a union leader article on, which talks about loosening COVID restrictions, which includes outdoor dining. The change is supposed to happen on May 28th, and I will monitor that. And if the changes do go into effect, I will update the temporary outdoor seating authorization and put that in front of you to sign. It's basically they're talking about changing the distance, but there may be other things to come. So just wanted to notify you of that. The next item at Novus Engineering is requesting the board sign an amendment to the driveway permit you authorized previously. Chris Swiniarski, the attorney from B Tractor, can be available. I'm way ahead of schedule, but I can text him if you have questions. The board just needs to sign this.
Jeannie, I have a question on that, please. The amendment to the driveway permit, can you just in general terms tell me what the amendment is? Are they expanding it or are they?
Well, I think,
I tried to look at the map and I'm sorry, I didn't understand it.
let me get, I don't want to speak out of turn. So let me just see if I can get him.
Did anybody else understand what they were doing?
No.
Can we discuss it before we have
Put
the
them on?
attorney
Okay,
step in here?
okay. Hold off, Jean.
Okay.
What,
Well, I mean, we're amending a permit for a driveway. Isn't that something that the planning board
no,
to amend the plans? They don't
No.
Have to do that?
mm-mm.
So.
No.
We
and-
already
it can't-
approved it
yeah.
before.
Joe
But it's
signed
not
it.
what we approved. We're approving some.
An
asked to
amendment
approve
to it.
Something different, amendment to it. I can't see these plans very well, and I really don't want to go by verbal stuff. I don't feel comfortable with that.
I'm happy to get him on the phone. I'm sure he could answer questions.
I'd like to see it in writing.
Go ahead, Eric.
I think, not looking, I didn't look very closely, but I believe it has to do with part of their site plan and their previous approval was that they had to widen the entrance to Bittern Lane.
Oh, okay.
And that may be where that amendment is coming because they did that work, I think it was last fall. They widened the right side
Right,
of,
they did.
and that might be what the amendment regarding.
Well, it said in the email that I sent you, the MB Tractor site plan for proposed building addition at the retail store was conditionally approved by the planning board on February 9th, 2021. The plan set is attached for your reference. The building addition triggered a need for an amendment to the existing driveway permit, although according to Novus Engineering, DOT does not anticipate additional improvements to Bittern Lane will be required. New Hampshire DOT does not have a separate application for an amendment. The attached application document is the only form currently used.
Okay. So DOT doesn't expect they've already
No.
checked with, okay, I'm good with that. And they've already been to the planning board in February 2021.
Yes,
Okay,
and Joe signed off on this when he was chair.
okay. Does anybody else have any additional questions?
Yeah, is there anything on these plans to show what the changes are from the original to the new one? Does anybody know? Is it written down or is this a verbal thing?
It's not a verbal thing. On one of those, I don't have the plan in front of me. On one of those, it shows the end of the skirt going from Route 3 to it's blackened. And that's what I didn't understand.
My understanding is the planning board approved it.
Magnifying glass. Widened over here. See the dots here? Right.
That's your,
Okay. This is, all right, so here's Bittern, right? Right here. This is East Main. All right, so this is where they cut here in the original, right there, and where the other one is here. This is where they really cut here.
Mhm.
So DOT, about 2 years ago, said you have to widen this here. And they took part of the agway piece over here. But it's more of a curve here for tractor trailers to come in. That was the amendment that they submitted to DOT, was they had to come to the planning board for the driveway permit. So they went to DOT first, planning board, and then we authorized the driveway permit. Am I correct in that, Eric?
What,
So you mean what the old difference and what the new difference
well, it's
is?
amended from the old one, right?
I really can't tell you that. That would have to be very explicit from the attorney, because all you can see is what the old is here and the new lines now, which is widened. And then if you look at this, to construct the entrance, so that the highway right-of-way is used for no purpose other than travel to construct. And they had to furnish and install drainage structure. So it looks like everything is in order. They've been to DOT, Eric says that they've been to planning. You have record that they've been to planning in 2021.
And there is only one signature line
Yep.
on the permit.
Okay, this is the one that I saw on, that just had Eric's name on it. Eric, you're sure that they've done the work that they said that they did in the planning board, correct? Yep.
A permit for something they.
The signature one.
I think you
Yeah,
have
this
to-
was all directed back in last, they started this last year.
The
I-
date of the amendment is from last year? Or is this a new amendment from that?
I think that the attorney could probably answer that question for you if you want me to call him.
You know, I believe in doing things and getting them written on the plans and clear so that it's not left up to, you know, a verbal phone call or anything like that, so that our records are kept straight as to what we're approving. But that's the purview of the board.
So there would need to be a motion to have Eric sign subrogate.
John still has an issue with it, so I don't know where you want to go with it.
Want me to get the attorney on?
No, my
He has the issue is with
is-
getting the attorney on the phone.
My issue is that we should have this in writing and a plan on it as to what they're doing, as opposed to a verbal contact with an attorney over a
It's-
phone at a meeting.
There.
The attorney needs to just be explained.
Yes.
The work that you got in your- Granted,
Okay.
that's a pretty poor facsimile.
It is, I mean, there's five of us, so if
Well,
more people,
to John's point, we have a plan that we can't really see that we're trying to approve, and we're trying to ask questions of Eric, was on the planning board, and John is the ex officio of the planning board that's trying to understand something that we're trying to do. So in fairness to John, yeah, I get his point.
does it show on here?
Is this a timely thing?
You have to cover the application we have to sign.
I passed it to Eric. Not the second page, that's Eric's info.
Did it get emailed out to us?
Files.
Well, it got emailed to us.
Yes, so you can have,
So
you
we
can
could-
email it, you can pull it.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know if it on the town website, on the
All right, I forwarded it to you.
A driveway, or is it for
It would be the
changing
one
of the
that says
road?
tamped on it,
Because
the PDF.
it's the access off of Bittern Lane, or is it Bittern Lane itself?
It's the access it's the access in Route 3. DOT wouldn't care if DOT's only concerned with the access off of Route 3. Onto Route 3, I should say. Yes, yep.
I guess one of my questions is, if this is a town-owned road and he's asking for a driveway entrance
I
to
think it's
his
that.
property on Route 3, and it says here, I am the owner of a duly authorized agent of the owner of the parcel on which the driveway will be constructed. But Bittern Lane is still Tilton.
That's why it has to come to the board. That's why it's coming to the board.
But we're saying it says that he's the owner.
Eric, representing the board. The signature page shows Eric Pyra, signature of landowner, applicant, chairman, Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The approval does not. Added the same. Added at the driveway. Right.
Before town meeting.
Right.
Jessamine second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
You abstain from that.
One abstention. Motion passes.
Next item, Tilton school students have volunteered to paint an American flag mural on one side of the siphon pump. If you remember, there are two sides yet to be done. They were ready to do it the other day. They were pretty excited and ready to go. And I said, you got to wait, make sure the selectmen are okay. So I just need to have you authorize them to go ahead and paint that flag.
I move that we allow the Tilton School group to paint the American flag on one side of the siphon pump.
Okay.
Discussion.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
I just have I'm really excited about having everybody involved and the community involved, and I'll preface it that way. But the American flag, we have such fun paintings, and not that the American flag's not fun, I didn't mean to say it that way. Why is it Tilton School picking the American flag? Are they gonna kind of just do like a abstract or just a American flag?
That's my understanding, just an American flag. If you recall that we had solicited all the schools, Tilton School was going to do it 2 years or a year and a half ago, COVID hit.
Yep.
And I think it was actually Officer Murray who, one of the teachers or somebody reached out to her, maybe it was one of the students anyway, said they wanted to do that, and they're ready to go. So I just wanted to make sure you were okay with it before they did it.
John?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see something a little bit more that represents Tilton and a little more creative. That's like Pat was saying, we've got the other two sides, and we're trying to do things that represented Tilton and be a little more than just a flag. I know flags are very important and all that, but it would be nice to have something that represented our community. Drawings of buildings or something like that, something that a little bit more.
Go ahead.
I like the idea of a flag, quite frankly. I understand your point, certainly. But I like the idea of a flag. I like the flag.
I was going to say, I understand where John's coming from, but we do have the New Hampshire Veterans Home in our hometown, and the people that reside there fought for that flag, and I think it represents them well.
So perhaps maybe a compromise that we could incorporate the community, because we have a lot of monuments and things that are to the veterans. Perhaps maybe, something that depicts the flag along with the veterans that would incorporate the community would be a win-win, because you're absolutely right. I mean, it would be really nice to bring that together, because we said we'd do the four walls that brought the community, that depicted our community. I don't know how you would do it, trust me, I really don't. And I don't want it to make it really difficult for the students either, so.
All right. Ironically, I looked at that this morning on my way to work, and I said, I wonder if we're not going to paint the other two sides. So,
Well, I saw John painting one side, so I knew it was coming up soon, the base coat, so I knew it was coming up soon, but I'm excited about it, but I was just wondering if it could be just something a little bit more.
John?
Yeah, I like that. I've seen some of the other artwork, like in the music building downstairs, that the murals that the students have painted, and they're really some very talented people that have done a lot of different murals. And maybe something like a little picture of the veterans home and the flag, or, I like that. I think that would be a good fitting, especially think of the veterans that we lost over the last year.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none? Do we, I guess we,
There is a motion on the
yeah, all
floor.
those in favor of allowing the Tilton School to paint the flag on the substation? Say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Nay, oppose.
I'm gonna say nay,
All right.
kind of like,
Well, I got you. Well,
but I'm excited that they're doing it.
motion passes 3-2.
Thank you. I had 2 thank you letters that I drafted for you to sign in your to be signed file. And I won't go through the FYI information unless you have questions.
I do.
Okay.
Number one,
Mm-hmm.
there was a sergeant in charge of that, and we have grants that are due. Tim, you might be able to help me out. There's even that are due in March or April. But the number one on her FYI, I don't want to say it out loud. That are 50% match. And so I'm just wondering where that person is, and is this kept up to date?
I had been hearing, so I asked the interim police administrator what the status was, and that's the report that I have for you. So you see what's needed, and I don't know.
Can we ask the interim chief if there is an ongoing program? I think that's the word I want to use.
Would Sergeant
Right.
Gilman know? Would he know?
Asking Abe.
Yeah, I don't know if he would know since he just walked in. I can.
Let's put Abe on the hot seat. Okay.
You might want to walk back out. I don't know.
Abe, is there an ongoing I know that there's an ongoing program. However, is the program still continuing on the number one up on the top, identifying what's old and needs to be replaced? And there's a grant for a 50-50 replacement with the Homeland Security. I believe it's Homeland Security.
I don't know anything about it.
If you don't know, just let us know and we'll figure that out with the interim.
Yep, I don't know. I know that before Captain was doing all that.
Yep,
And I don't think it's been switched over, but I could be wrong.
okay,
But I know that we have the grant training this week, and that was brought up about getting grant money, because we have Bavis in here who does the grant stuff.
Yep.
And he was talking about almost getting our vests for free, and something we could work on. There's grants out there to get stuff like that. But as of who's taking over and knowing the body armor, I would say no.
so about 8 years ago, the officers themselves came in and said, we need these replaced, they're old, they're not, blah, blah, blah. And we said, we need to get on a regular program here. And we developed a program with the higher admin, and there was Homeland Security came up with a replacement program for those that are new, replacement program. And they would, I think it was 3 or 4, Tim, that each year that they would allow. And so 5
years that you get your vest switched out. So I
well,
just had
5
mine,
years,
so it's
but they
5
would
years.
only allow, I think they would only allow 3 or 4 each year to be replaced. So we had to spread it out because there was so many that needed to be replaced at the first year. And now we're on a regular replacement program. So we need to keep up with that. Okay. Thank you, Jeannie. So we need to find out what that, if that program, and then designate, if it's not, we need to designate it to someone.
Okay.
And, I mean, I'm speaking loud enough so people can hear. I know that the Keck just got a brand new vest before he
Mhm.
passed. And I know Opie Jack, I'm pretty sure he got a brand new vest before he left. So what stinks is we probably used some of that money in that grant, you know, at the time.
Right,
Those vests, I mean, to fill Keck's frame and the way that he was built, the monster, you put that on anybody, it's not gonna fit. So, and I know Opie Jacks, I'm pretty sure probably maybe fit, but again, these are tailored to your.
right. It's,
specification where you are.
but it should be close,
He's
or,
not gonna be heard. Okay, sorry about that.
well,
You won't be heard for the minutes.
it should be real close to submitting right now, or if it's already passed this year for some. That was my point.
You want to repeat that, or is that, are we good with that?
No, we're good with that. Excuse
Ti-
me.
Tim says he knows who to call.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
So I just have one more thing and then I will be done unless anyone has any questions for me. I did meet twice now, the second time with the group, the consortium group about the Atlantic broadband issue in it. And you saw the press release that we sent out asking the public to provide feedback on the service for Atlantic broadband. But based on the last meeting, it doesn't sound like what they're looking at is a consortium group of towns that would each have to pay in probably about $4,000 to $5,000 each to have the law firm represent them. And it doesn't appear to me, after talking with Tim about what you're using Atlantic broadband for, that it would be worth us being part of that consortium. That they're going to be out of the cable business at some point. And I will tell you that there are other towns who are now dropping from the consortium because they're feeling like the benefit is just not there to move forward. So based on what I've heard, unless Joe has some other question.
My question would be to Tim. You were heavily involved in the broadband negotiations the last time. Do you feel that there's no benefit to being involved or minimal benefit to being involved again?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. If it were much less cost, maybe, but I don't see where there's a great deal of benefit for the town when you really consider what it covers. So.
Is that the mechanism by which we might recover franchise fees?
No, you could still have that on the bill if you really want to do that. But in the past, the selectmen have always opted not to have any fee on the, formerly MetroCast, now Atlantic bill for the municipality. I believe Northfield used to recoup, I think it was 3%. I don't know if that's still the case.
It's a revenue stream. Those franchise fees were initially came up with so that becoming part of public access, pretty much the people that used the service were paying for the public access because other people didn't get it, right? But there was nothing in there that said that you had to use it for that purpose. So you can collect it and use it for any purpose you want. So a lot of towns did.
Don?
I was wondering, all of our citizens or landowners have access to cable now? And I mean, that's something that is usually negotiated into what, to make sure everybody is served in town.
There is that.
I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you for this particular building, the cost to run cable into this building was going to be prohibitive in the town administrators, in my estimation, even with some help from Atlantic offsetting some of the capital cost. So I guess it's really a decision, for homeowners if they're far off the street, how much it's going to cost to bring that into their homes. I would think probably most people nowadays are probably going to have internet, maybe stream. There's a lot of that. Even back when, if Selectman Jessman remembers when we were in negotiations with them, they said 40% of their traffic at night was Netflix at the time. And that was how many years ago?
It's probably 80%.
I would think, streaming services would be the majority of traffic these days, one kind or another, whether it's YouTube TV or Netflix or what have you. Yeah.
So all the roads in town have access.
I don't know the answer to
I
that.
think that's something that's
I'm
important.
sure that would be an inquiry that we can make to Atlantic Broadband of what percentage of the addresses in Tilton have access to cable.
I can tell
Not
you,
all
Or
of them
are
do.
the roads?
Not all of
they
them
can
do.
tell you the exact areas that
Yeah,
don't
right.
have cable.
That would be something that
They
if
don't
somebody
all have it.
doesn't, you at least have it on your road that you could connect up to.
Right.
And I remember years ago when it first came in, that was one of the negotiating things, was that to make sure that everybody at least had it on their road, but then they still had to connect from the road to their house. That was their,
Big Range Road has.
And it depended on how
Which
far you
road?
were from it.
And just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that you're giving anything up. All I'm talking about tonight is being part of a consortium and paying $4,000 to move forward as a group. And what I'm hearing is that there's not much benefit that you're going to get anyway. We still can represent ourselves in negotiating with Atlantic Broadband. We don't need to be part of a consortium. And I'm saying, based on what I've heard, I would not recommend to you to spend $4,000 to be part of a consortium. That's all I'm talking about tonight.
Exactly. And I couldn't agree more.
So I guess I'd like some direction from you, because if you agree, then I will tell them that we're going to drop out.
So Pat, good, yes or no on $4,000?
No.
No. Joe?
No.
No. I'm a no. Scott?
No.
John?
no,
No. There you go.
All right, great. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. All right.
Unless anyone has something for me. I think it's past 5:30.
All right.
Pesticides.
All right. What we got here? Oh, Sergeant Gilman, Tree Streets parking. Huh. There may be a selectman or
You need
two.
to push the button to make it green. There you go.
There
There
you
we go. Check, check.
Green means go.
All right, so I am here tonight about the tree streets. We spoke about this many times. First time being around October of 2019. That's when I came in with the chief Cormier. I guess we're having issues on the tree streets, and this would, Mr. Ruggles, it would be your Prospect, your Chestnut Street, Cedar Street, and then your High Street, closer to the High Extension Street. Yeah, no, which I know you know. I just wanted to, because some people with the tree streets up like Pine in those areas, we don't have any parking up in that we don't have any problems up there. But those are like the main, those 1, 2, 3 across are the main areas. So what we came up with a plan for the time being was to make signs. We were going to trim the shrubbery up to the stop signs across the cross street on High Street and some of the other streets that come on Prospect, so that people don't nudge out, stuff like that. So I think that's obviously the plan. and then also speak with the property owners or get with the townspeople to the community in that area to find out what their concerns are and what their issues and if they have any. Because it's kind of a big thing. What we're trying to figure out is the parking with the sidewalk. Sidewalk's done. We've already obviously striped that white, right? And we've done the pedestrian crosswalk guy all the way down on
Enforced.
What's that?
Is it enforced?
It's not enforced because the problem is we were kind of all over the place with, we wanted to kind of do a test, a demo and check it out and see how it worked. Well, it ended up getting striped all the way through. Fine and dandy. The only thing about it is we're not enforcing it. So we have people that are still parking on those areas, and it'd be fine because it's always been a line or a sidewalk and they were parking it, but now we have that pedestrian guy that's there. And I don't want people to like get confused with that. So when we start doing it, it's like, well, I've been parking there for a while. So I think signage, obviously. So let's go back with the signage. We ended up buying 12 signs that state no parking from here to the corner. We started to put some of those up. I think the frost got the better of us. So we only got a couple in there. And then I think some townspeople were complaining just where they were located on their property. So those eventually, and I think some else, those eventually got taken out, at least like 6 of them that were put in place. So I think with the meeting that we'll have with the townspeople, which is scheduled for May 6th, we can get with people to find out what their problem and the issues are in those areas. Because we did pay for the sign. So I think that's obviously, it's a law. I mean, you park from here to the corner is going to leave, you park pulling up to the stop sign and there's a car right there and you got to nudge out and now it's too late. So I think, and I think really what we're trying to figure out also is if there's issues, which I've heard there is, that it's really narrow, obviously through Chestnut Street, when you get by the church, when you have the sidewalk, and then you have parking, and then now you have the road. Right now you have a 5-foot parking, 5-foot sidewalk with the white painted with the pedestrian on there. And then if you park on that white line, not on the sidewalk, you got to have 7 feet. Okay, so you got 5, 7, and that leaves you with 14 feet. The road all the way across, sidewalk and all, is 26 feet. So that leaves you 14. That's tight. You're supposed to have a minimum of 9 feet of a lane to drive a vehicle. That's one vehicle, so obviously 14 isn't enough. I know throughout the winter parking ban, we have no parking, and people are able to park those cars off the road, and it's fine. And we're able to use the sidewalk if they need it, and we're able to do 2-way. So we kind of have to figure out which avenue we want to go. You know what I mean? The sidewalk's already there. We've already sprayed them. They're there, and we're not going to take a sidewalk out anyway. So 5 feet of every road that we're talking about is already used. Okay. So then we go parking, but can't park on the sidewalk, so it only gives you so many feet. So it's going to be parking in 1-way street, or it's going to be parking 2-way. But you're going to have your same issues of people trying to snake, and when it gets real tight, FedEx, Amazon vehicles parking, or we do all year round, no parking on certain streets in that area, like with the winter parking ban, and that will then be able to keep 2 lanes plus a sidewalk. Those are the things we have to, but I think we have to get with the people in that area to find out what the deal is, you know, what's going on, what's being said, because I'm open, and obviously you guys are open to whatever's going to work. So
I think it's gonna have to be a little bit customized.
Mhm.
One street is, either 1-way but it's not, what's good for Chestnut's not gonna be good for Cedar. It's
Mhm.
not gonna be good for Prospect.
we have
No.
on Prospect at least 3 or 4 houses on Prospect that people park on the street. They're the apartment buildings and some of like a motorcycle on the very end of Prospect. On Chestnut, we have 6 or 7 on that road. And then on High, we have 3, maybe 4. And that's on the very end towards Cedar. And on Cedar Street, it's really typically, it's more closer to the end of closer to High Street. So you have maybe 1 or 2 in that area. So we talk to the people, we talk to the landlord. We find out, because some of those places that park on the road, friends are over or whatever, or it's just easier for them, or the landlord hasn't made enough parking spots in their parking lot to accommodate the people that are in the house or in the building, the complex. So we almost have to find out really what the deal is. We're able to do it in the wintertime. They're able to tuck the cars away then. So can they do it all the way year round? They probably can. It's just, we have to, do it or talk about it and then find out what the best solution is. So that's where I'm at right now.
hard.
It is
They're-
hard.
The houses are next to each other.
Mhm.
There's no parking. You have the family over. A lot of the residents on Cedar Street, they'll, if they have parties or family over, they'll come up, park on Maple Court because it's out of the way. No, but is what it is. It's the village. And the village has been there a lot longer than a lot of the outskirts. It's very difficult for parking. Got to come up with some type of a solution.
Jeannie?
Just a question, do we have a lot of people complaining now?
No, we have a lot of, for instance, on Cedar Street, we have a lot of new people. Since we actually had the first public hearing, there's a big turnover on Cedar Street. The apartment building that he's speaking to is all new people, except one.
Mhm.
And then 22 Cedar, it's all new people. I mean, even I have a new tenant since that public hearing. And that end from Maple Court down, all four of those houses are all new tenants.
My question is are we trying to fix a problem that nobody's complaining about? That's what because at least I don't get any calls from anyone. Gail might not be aware of it, or the selectmen may be hearing complaints that
It was more of a public works problem in the winter in plowing because there was, that's what initiated the issue back then, particularly on Chestnut Street, because they were parking on, there was brush growing into the sidewalk and people would have to walk around it. And then there were vehicles parked in the painted sidewalk. And then the church allowed in the winter for them to park in the church parking lot, but they wouldn't move so that the church could plow their parking lot. So the church said, no, they couldn't do that any longer. And once they did that, then they were complaining because they parked on the side and then they had to enforce it. That's kind of what generated that kind of a situation. And that's when we said, well, we need to fix something. And then up on High Street, they were parking on the painted sidewalk. It's only a partial sidewalk, halfway up. And there's only two houses that do that. There's a small driveway in each house. And the trucks couldn't make that turn from Cedar to High or High to Cedar because the swing, and there was a vehicle there. They were the ones that were complaining. It wasn't the residents. They were perfectly fine. So right now, we don't get complaints about it at all because they're perfectly fine about it.
Yeah. And I think those signs, the 12 signs that we have, will keep vehicles from being on those corners. So when they have to take the corner to do that. And then again, I think signs would be great to now educate. We just don't want to jump the gun. But we've already painted, so we want to educate what the signs mean. So I did see a little bit of a little thing. Right now, we just have the pedestrian person, I think below that we can put PED only. That's where a lot of, colleges and stuff, they put right below it. And then maybe a sign at the beginning of like Cedar, because I know he did it, Kevin had done that design downtown, some places in like the crosswalk areas. So I think it's just more education, because if we do start to enforce it, we want people to obviously understand where they're supposed to park, because it's not a distinguished sidewalk as in a raised curb. It's a white line, and so it's new to everybody. But I think it's easy to do. But then again, now that brings the cars further out on some of those roads. And if we don't have a problem with it, because we're keeping them off the stop signs or from the intersections back and they're out, people will just do what they've always done on Cedar Street. I lived on Daniel, like from 5th grade all the way till, I don't know, geez, like at least till after I graduated high school. I never had any issues. You would just say someone was coming down on Cedar Street and there was a car in the way that was parked. You try to snake over, they go by, you just deal with it. But again, that's not me to decide. I think talking to the community and the residents in that area would be great. So they deal with it. I mean, we all deal with it, but maybe they have something that we haven't thought about. So,
I'm biting my tongue.
The
okay.
speed bumps was a huge help
Well,
on Cedar Street.
I was just gonna bring that up. Everyone's beating me to the punch today. So, number one, I won't bring that up now because that's not your issue, but I'll say that we had speed bumps, but since they've repaved the road, they've disappeared.
Yep.
And they effectively, and as little as they're up during the school year, they need to get back put on road.
I know that they've reinstalled on a couple of them.
Daniel probably.
Today
Daniel,
and yesterday. Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully they will.
BBD,
But-
that was put out there last year, so I would assume.
And the Academy Street
Yep.
extension.
It's
great.
To Jeannie's point, where there hasn't been complaints, that's because the residents have been there a long time, are waiting for the Board of Selectmen to come up with a plan that was discussed.
Okay.
And that's been 5 or 6 years that there's no plan.
But you still want to move forward with having a
Well,
public meeting.
here's your issue. You have High Street, there's 1, 2, 3 houses in a row, and then there's a 4th house that has a car that parks very close to the road, sometimes on the road, so that you cannot get two-way traffic on High Street between Cedar Street and Chestnut Street. And even occasionally on the end between Chestnut and Prospect, there's a couple houses that occasionally park a car on the street, and you can't get 2 cars. Looking left from High Street up Prospect, there's a bush that comes out there. You have to nose out, going down Prospect. The other day, I should have taken a picture of it and I didn't. It was, granted, it was like 6 a.m, but there was a car parked clear, not on the road. His left wheels were on the white line for the sidewalk, and that happens on Cedar Street, where they park, and I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I'll stop to talk to someone and, I pull onto the sidewalk and they don't know, no one knows what those people mean. But you have to do something. And my always thought was that you have to do whatever you can to funnel the traffic to the traffic light on Prospect, because that's the ultimate way to get, if that's making Chestnut, one way up to High Street, and making High Street one way and Cedar one way, just to get the traffic to funnel to the traffic light. That's just my thought, because I was very vocal back when we had the first community, and I've been silently waiting for the Board of Selectmen to come up with a plan. But, I don't know if you've referenced that meeting, but there were some proposals, and I don't know if it was recorded or not back then. Yeah, it was held at behind the church at the church center, the Booton Center. Thank you. And there was an engineer that volunteered services, and I don't know where that went, but
This one's
Yeah,
Steve
right there.
Pernoff. Yeah. I
yeah.
have it.
So I
Yep.
think we have to come up with something.
Yeah, I've reached out to him actually, and that's the white line idea, because I was thinking of yellow, but you really can't put a yellow.
Yeah.
It's going to confuse people. The white's fine. And then when I sent him, Jeannie and I come up with the cross guy, the pedestrian, and he was like, actually, that's a great idea. So we kind of incorporated that. We just have to educate, and it wasn't supposed to be put out there yet. It was supposed to be like just a test in 1 or 2 areas just to see, but it wasn't supposed to be full out sprayed, because that was a problem. We're kind of putting the cart before the horse, and we need to educate and get it. It almost needs to like seamlessly all go at once. You know, you're gonna spray those, you're gonna do what you're gonna do for underneath, and then you're gonna get to your signage so that
Right.
everything can happen at once, and we can educate and do it all at once instead of like, okay, we're gonna do this and then going back and a winter parking ban, and you're allowed to park there, we can nudge over. So that's I think that's the main plan, is to get that going. And they're there, so we might as well get the signage or get the
Well, I
the
know when they
spray.
put the signs up last year, like was it last year, the year before, no parking signs? You know, they put them 2 feet from the corner. Well, that, you know, you're not gonna park there anyways. It was, I think, yeah, someone took a ruler out and measured whatever it is, 20 feet.
Yep.
But it didn't make sense.
Yep.
You know, it was, you know, the sign went in someone's front yard, which I get they may have to, but.
Well, that one, I can say who that one was. I'm not going to say a name because we're public, but I dealt with that issue, and I mapped it out, and it was 15 feet, 15 to 20 feet. And there was no way to put it forward or back off their yard, because if we did, we can't enforce that, because
Right.
now you're giving somebody a ticket, because the signs state from this sign to the intersection. So if you map out 20 feet, what the law is 15, 20, and you give it whatever, you go back, well, you're not technically, if somebody really wanted to fight it, you're not staying within that. So again, you're just going to have to get, I think the public is good. I think we'll have to explain that those need to be there, because people do park all the way up to the corner, and that's a huge issue. I mean, we can trim bushes back, but you trim somebody's front of their car off kind of deal, you know what I mean? We got to
yeah.
at least put it there, and then we can educate and then also enforce it, and that will keep people off that intersection. And if years down the road, we can take those out because people understand, but there's always new things. So, and then eventually they'll blend in. You won't even know that they're there, honestly. But it's not my yard also, so I can speak like that.
Well, they got to watch out for those folks on
Yeah.
Maple Court.
Absolutely. And the dogs.
Yeah. Well, they got a crazy dog walker at 6 in the morning.
I mean, does everybody agree with me, the kind of the plan, instead of like,
I have to see something on paper, just to, because people are going to they need a visual of what you're, you know, of something, I think. But
I could do anything you want. I just think I can kind of give them options, but also first hear what their complaints are. If they all come here and say, I'm here, but I don't really have a complaint. The only complaint I have is winter parking, just there's cars in the road. Well, that's winter parking ban. We need to take care of that. So that comes on the police, and that comes on us enforcing it. Another thing might be like, well, we have white lines there now with pedestrian crossing, but everybody still parks on it. What's the issue with that? And then we have to educate them that you're not supposed to park there. The reason why we haven't been enforcing that is because of this. But really just hear what they want to do, what their what fuels them every day or makes them angry, and what we can do to fix it. And if it's, hey, I think it should be two-way with no parking on the side because it just impedes a lot of the area, then we go that way. If they say they want to do, like you said, one way up, one like Manchester has, we'll have to look at that, because that's obviously going to be different.
yeah, I mean, I can, referencing what Pat said, I can think of 6 houses off the top of my head that have changed.
Mhm.
And that's just on Cedar Street.
Yep.
You know,
On Chestnut too, they've
yeah,
remodeled.
there's a lot of I hate to use transient, but they're not, you know, like every other house on Cedar Street is
Right.
a long-term resident. And,
Yep.
you know, Chestnut, where the corner of West Street, where Brock lived.
Wayne Brock.
Yeah, they renovated that house. So a lot of those houses have, you know, apartments in them.
Yeah. So I mean, what are you saying about that? Like, what's the issue?
Well, I think just it's education, because, you know, for a while it was pretty good because the people that had been there at the last meeting, you know, they kind of took to the cutting back and not parking on the street, you know.
Right. So they knew the issues.
Yeah.
But let's take the person that renovated Mr. Brock's house.
Mhm.
They took the garage down where Mr. Brock used to park up on West Street,
Mhm.
you know, up on around the
Yep.
corner.
Yep.
So the new people parked on the white in there.
Mhm.
So, but it took at the education portion of it to let them know that this is really not what we do.
Mhm.
But I don't have any place to park. Well, the flat part up there is where they parked. That was,
Until winter parking ban's over, and then they park back in the road on Chestnut, technically on the sidewalk, and that's what we have to.
and they figured it out, and that was it. But it was new, so they weren't aware. But This is what happens.
And I think it goes education also with that, but people renting places and leaving all the time, that should be on the landlord also. And I know at least me, that's same with downtown parking when we get to that issue. It's, you know, people getting permits and stuff. We almost need to make it like, who is it on School Street? The female there that buys her tickets, who buys her parking permits for her tenants.
Oh,
The greenhouse,
Cecile.
Cecile. So Cecile has a system.
Yeah.
Every year she just buys them for her tenants, or
For
she,
tenants, right.
you know, and does it that way. I'm not saying they have to do it, but we have to get down to the landlords and the people that own these buildings are got to be held responsible also, or have to inform their new, you know, this is
Right.
your park, this is your new residence. Hey, here's a key to your residence. You have 2 parking spots in the back. If you do want to park on the front, these are the rules and regulations of you parking in the front. After this time, Tilton Police Department is going to do this. You're not allowed to park on the white line. The crossing or the pedestrian guy is technically a sidewalk. It's not raised, but this is what it's just education. So it doesn't put it on the police department every time to go, oh, that looks like a new car. I think I'm going to stop and talk, you know, so it helps alleviate also when we write a ticket or we tow a vehicle. So
We have, it's not just landlord and tenants there that we have an influx of new people. We're talking about houses that have been sold, single family
Mhm.
houses that have been sold that are new homeowners that are,
yeah, and the new homeowners, that's easy. I mean, that's just getting education out the first time, and when they come down to pay for something or us posting it, doing it on our website, using the technology and all that. But I'm talking about mid-season, somebody else moves into an apartment building and it's hard to keep up with that stuff.
so how are we getting word out for the May 6th meeting? How is that happening?
So we're going to create a flyer. And I think we did this before. They will be hand delivered to each homeowner.
Yep, that works. Yeah. We'll see.
Renters and everybody,
What's that?
as well as renters?
Yep.
So just to clarify, obviously winter parking ban, that's a given. Eric, so is one of your concerns, correct me if I'm wrong, sort of you talked about the flow of traffic from the schools and then how it can be impinged by the parking there. So I wonder if you have a school year time parking ban, like specific times where they can't be parked there.
Well,
And you know, and
Yeah.
I don't want to complicate the picture too much, but you know, I know that flow of traffic that comes through there, having picked up at the middle school, et cetera. So the question.
That was one of our options too, back
Yeah.
5 years
Well,
ago.
one of what I was told, and maybe Officer Gilman Sergeant Gilman can look into, is that they couldn't restrict the flow from you could not stop people from turning onto Winter Street onto Cedar Street at any time because of the state road status. Because one of my concerns was, okay, well, the biggest time is, you know, let's say 2 to 5 every day or 2 to 6, make Cedar Street a one-way road. And that will cut down a lot of people cutting through and speeding through the neighborhood because the traffic backs up at the traffic light. You know, so they whip up Cedar Street, up Winter Street, or they come down from the Veterans Home with a shift
right.
change. You know, it's bad enough you get the students, but then what they discover through when they do the ticketing, you know, speed enforcement, you know, that they're also workers from the Veterans Home, but they couldn't stop people from making a left-hand turn from Winter Street onto Cedar Street because of the state road status. That's what it was explained to me by previous personnel.
Okay.
So maybe
I'd have
you
to look
can,
at that. That sounds about right.
yeah.
And it would
Well,
really
I don't want
confuse-
that to be right because that would be a good solution.
It would, looking out, but for an officer standpoint or even admin standpoint, we'd have to really fine tune that to make it work and figure out how to have somebody out there all the time. Because if you block it, you'd have to. I mean, who would the signs? Education.
If that's the case, then we couldn't do Chestnut and we couldn't do Prospect. Making it a one-way. come off of a state road.
Honestly, I don't know about that. That's something we have to look at. You're right.
I mean-
You're right.
No, this isn't,
This is like
isn't-
different times, right? Is what you were
yeah,
saying?
well, this is like a no left turn, from Winter Street in particular, no left turn, from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, whatever.
Yeah, like time zones and stuff. And it would
Yeah.
would just be really, really hard to enforce that. Now, parking so that you keep the cars off the road at those certain times is something you could do, but I don't know if, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could do
Oh.
sort of like, if you have winter parking, then you could do the
Yes.
school year parking
Mhm.
ban.
And
So
people would
from
know.
just a specific time, because
Well,
when the
you-
school lets out at 2,
You cannot walk your dog on Cedar Street from 2 to 5.
oh,
Can't
it's,
do it.
Oh.
Just cannot do it.
And
Don't even try.
What we like to, we need to figure out a solution where you can do that. That's the thing. And really, it should be feasible if we can do the winter parking ban and there's no cars out there. And we can pull it off then. I don't see why we can't pull it off now. It's just getting to landlords and finding out which places, and then overflow parking. So you're having like cookout at your house, you're having something going on, where do you park? Easier maybe on Cedar Street or Chestnut Street because you have the church there. So these are the little things that you have to kind of figure out, but the road's only so wide and the traffic is really, picks up around that time. Cause I used to drive that. I lived on Daniel, and to come home, I would go up and around, but even after that, and I lived in Northfield, to go up and around, you'd have to go Cedar Street, High Street,
And then the light.
Prospect all the way
Yep.
down, or that's the route.
I do that now to get out. You can't get out on
Or
Winter
go up
Street.
Peabody Street, if you're stuck and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go up over, and that's the problem, so.
Well, no matter what plan is ultimately chosen, somebody's not going to like it.
No.
And eventually everybody will get used to it. And then someday it'll be, they won't know it any other way.
Yeah.
Change is difficult, but oftentimes change is good.
So I mean, without trying to go through another meeting, without anything set in stone, because we've gone through, I think I have 3 listed here that we've talked about: October of 19, July, and August, we've talked about it. I'd hate to go another meeting without at least having something checked off the list. Do we use the 12 signs? Do we try to figure those out, to put those so parks at the intersections? Do we get signage for the for the sidewalks to get people educated before it gets really busy out there? And do we put the pedestrian only below, have Kevin spray that underneath, and then try to get every feet, if you've walked by or if you've driven by and seen those, there's so many feet, so maybe make them closer together or put that below it. So I just want to have something at least for today, if you guys agree.
yeah, agree.
Yeah, I agree with the painting thing. I think that's getting everybody
Yeah, I
used to it. At least they know that that's not part of the road, that's the sidewalk, and the rest of it, we're gonna have to try and get input. And
Right.
like Joe said, you gotta please one person, another one's gonna be upset, but we haven't, like
There's no
Jeannie mentioned,
perfect
I haven't
plan,
heard
No,
anything.
there's no perfect plan. It's,
Can't please all the people
No.
all the time.
But as Jeannie was saying, I haven't heard anything from people for a while on it,
yeah.
except for what are the selectmen are going to do from actually the selectmen themselves.
Right.
So,
Jeannie?
So I just want to be clear about what I just heard. Are you agreeing to doing something now before you have the public meeting, or is that what you're suggesting, Sergeant?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that we already have the sidewalks already set in stone. We've already paid for the painting of the white line. We've already paid for the painting of the pedestrian guy. I think we should at least put the pedestrian only below it. We already have the 12 signs. It is a law to not park within the intersection. We can wait on that, just because I know that caused a huge issue with some of the residents where we are putting those. But again, that keeps people parking right on the stop sign. It keeps the swinging of bigger trucks or anything on those intersections off. So I'm just trying to get, if we have these things already there, let's go with it, or we can do one of them, which is the pedestrian only, and call it good and wait until the meeting. It's really entirely up to you.
Do you have a map where the signs would go?
We had that before. We
Definitely
had
look it
a
up.
map.
Resend it?
Or could you put little, like the state did for the police station signs, put little stakes in the ground, just where those signs are gonna go? Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I could go over there with orange tape and, paint and do it all, because I drive and I know where the issues
Well, they're gonna have to
are.
dig safe them anyways. too.
Yes, exactly.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
John,
So if we already have the sidewalks painted,
Mhm.
but I think to maintain that paint and just add the word ped or something so
Ped
that
only.
it is,
And,
but maintain the paint that we have. So that's, I think that's good. And like Eric was
Fine
saying,
with that,
Mark,
yeah.
where the signs are from the intersection.
Are we all good with that? I
yeah,
am.
I'm good.
So did you, I'm just writing it
We're all
down.
good with that.
And that include putting the signs back up?
I'm
Marking,
Marking where the signs are gonna
marking
go.
where the
Okay.
signs are going.
And then at the public hearing, you can say, if you've noticed where the paint, that's where they're gonna go. It may give people a chance just to
Yeah.
say,
They might speak up and say, well, I don't have an issue there. I don't
Well,
think it's,
now I
and
can't
it's
park
something
my
we can
car,
do.
I park my car off the road on the other side of the sidewalk. Now I can't because there's a street sign there.
Okay.
it is a law, it's for safety, so fire trucks and things can get around the corners.
Yep, I agree. But I also agree with the people that own those little pieces of property right there, at least their front lawn. If you're mowing your lawn and that, whoa, there's a sign here, and that's what it was. It was more like pushing your lawnmower and be like, okay, now I got to get a weed whack. Like, what is this? So if we can figure out a
I
better
understand
way, yeah, if we can push it out, if we don't put it there and we have to drive a stake into the sidewalk, off to the side, it just really depends on the plowing of that area and how it works, something we can remove. I don't know.
I'm looking the weed
Yeah.
whack.
Is there anything that could be painted on the road, like a white line up to there? Because that would be, just paint on the road as opposed to the people want the sign.
Well, is
So they
it
know
some
where
places is it red or something like that on the
Yeah,
curb?
I mean, you could. What I could do is I could get with Steve Pernaw that did, gave me some advice on that. I could find out what other areas do. I've looked at colleges and stuff where they don't want signs everywhere. They do a lot of stuff that are on the ground.
Draw no parking here.
No part, exactly, red or whatever they do. But yeah, that's an option. So I like that.
All right. Yep,
One thing, that it?
that's
I mean,
all I got. Anyone else?
I just have one other thing not related to parking
Okay.
for Sergeant.
Oh, for Sergeant, sure. Go ahead.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to congratulate you to formally let you know that we permanently assigned you to Sergeant
thank you.
Gilman.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Not the interim, right?
Not the interim.
Not the,
No longer the interim.
I let the cat out of the bag. I thought you guys did that before I got here. Okay.
No.
We did, but Abe wasn't here.
Oh, okay.
I think everything else is good. Let me just look over my notes real quick. Yep, I'm good. Excellent. So that's what we'll go with.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Are we back
Back on you.
on me? Oh, look at that. Follow-up from the Parks Commission meeting. Couple questions came up during the Parks Commission meeting. So I'm just going to go down a checklist of things to look for consensus from the board. There will, as they did last year, they are looking to they're going to reopen the bathrooms at Riverfront Park, and in the past there is no sanitizing, so no one goes in there and sprays for COVID or anything like that. Are the selectmen okay with this?
Even if we had them go in and use the mister like we do at Town Hall,
It's
after 10 minutes, that's right out the window.
after the first
And
person
the
uses
first
it.
person to use it has ruined the protocol. So I'm not sure there's anything to be gained.
no,
We have it cleaned now, right?
it's
having it-
clean, but it's once every few days or a couple times a week.
We have a suggestion.
I'm fine with that.
I just wanted to mention, if you recall, I think last year Parks, they put a sign on the
you-
door that said this bathroom is not being sanitized.
And that would
just
be
as a-
done again.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I should have. And did you have something, John?
No.
Oh, I thought you did. All right. Scott? Nope. All right. So consensus is that's okay. We'll put that sign back up. All right. I should have, when Officer Gilman was here, I should have said something. They're having an issue with the police, not the police, but the parking lot at Riverfront Park, as there seems to be events happening at La Peace, and I guess this is a continuing battle. The people are using the designated parking spaces for the events there. So that was observed by a member or two of the commissioners. So can we direct the police department to enforce that? The parking lot that at Riverfront Park that is in the same parking lot as Riverfront Place, to enforce the town parking spaces. All right. So
Ask the police, but if they're on a call, they can't get there.
no, then I think that's understood. Just
Yep.
to,
But yes,
all right. I guess for the past year it hasn't been too bad because there haven't been many events at La Peace. So we could do that. They would like to hire their part-time person, but they have not heard anything since we put a freeze on hiring last spring. So he did start working again. But they would like to hire, they're looking for permission to hire their
Yeah.
part-time person again.
Yeah, just as a reminder, that freeze was lifted in the summer. And Paul did start working again last year. He received payroll checks from July 20th through the end of October. So he was working when the season closed. So there's no hiring freeze.
Okay.
these
All right.
top ones are Eric.
The fun ones here. Route 132 ball field. In the past years, they had a porta potty at the ball field. Should they put one there and order it now for June? I guess in the previous, well, now we haven't turned over the park to them. We don't know what the plan is. I'm not sure if the field will be ready for public use, but should they order one or not order one?
I wouldn't think it was necessary.
Okay.
There's nothing scheduled for over there, and we still haven't decided exactly what to do with the field.
They have events like Knockaball. If we finish our landscaping and the parking over here in June, July, and they have Knockaball events or want to have it over there, you're not going to get a porta potty last minute because we couldn't do it for the senior member of the concerts. I mean, we couldn't do it, and then you'll be in trouble. So you got to look at it both ways.
Yep.
I'm not sure what the answer is to that.
John?
Although it's not a ball field or anything anymore, it's a great place for recreation. If somebody wants to go and play with their dogs or frisbee or golf or whatever they want to do out there, it's still that, and it would be nice to have just one public bathroom, and then like Pat was saying, the knocker ball and anything else anybody wants to do. I'd say we should have one.
Okay.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. So yes. All right. And then it was mentioned by Catherine Dawson that she was approached by someone from GMI that they are actually interested in possibly donating the loam that would be needed for the field. But that has not been finalized yet. There'll be more information coming out on that in May. So I thought that was pretty good. Yeah. So, and of course, they're still waiting for direction from this board on when it can be released and what it's going to be done, but that'll be a discussion for another meeting after they meet in May. Yes, Jeannie?
I also want to mention I received a call today from the superintendent of schools. He just wanted to express interest in working with the town. If there is a decision to move forward with the development of the field, that there's interest in having, he said, apparently they used to have middle and high school football practice there, and the home games for the middle school were there. So he just wanted to have the board be aware that that as the superintendent of schools, he's interested in having that discussion and working with the town if you decide to move forward with developing the piece.
Any indication about what working with the town constitutes?
My impression is that might include some fundraising on their behalf. I think they, as I guess they had used that field in the past and they're interested in using it in the future, and how that gets developed. But I did let him know that the board has not turned the field back over to Parks yet, which is probably why he was calling us. He had heard that that there was some contentiousness about what was happening. And
That's a
I
good way to put it.
said it really is all about this building, and this property has to be finished first because there are going to be construction vehicles still in and out. We've got to finish the landscaping. We've got a parking area that needs to be put in, and it's a process. And I think once that's done, then you look at what's next. But right now, it's not done.
We don't know what's going to be left. John?
I think one of the things we have to really look into first before we turn it over or anything on any decisions is what is going to be the purpose of that field? What's the final use for it? I appreciate that it gets used by the students and all that, but we have to realize that that's a town piece of property and not a school district piece of property. And if we use the town's money to create a ball field for the school district, it's not really the way things should work. If the school district wanted to contribute into something, we could have a multi-use type thing or whatever. But the idea would be to find out from the people in the town what the people who are the taxpayers and are going to pay for it would like to use it for prior to doing anything. We need to step forward.
No,
And to John's point, and this board has had that conversation in an earlier meeting about doing some kind of survey or getting feedback from the community. You know that every time we send out a tax bill, we do a newsletter. We could, if that's something you'd want to do, put a short, little blurb in the newsletter saying, go to the website, fill out the survey. We could create a survey instrument or a question, and then you'd get feedback.
a survey
That's
monkey
coming
type
up.
thing.
I'd like it.
That's going to be coming up soon.
And the other part of that is that the survey should be from the people in Tilton.
Yep.
The Tilton residents
Yeah.
should be doing it,
Well,
not
that's going to be the issue because someone's going to post it on social media and you're going to get influence. And I don't know if you can geofence something like that, but
Well, I'm sure there's some way we can figure out.
can't do it by zip code because they share the zip code. All right.
Well,
Thank
I think people, if they want to do something, they can put their name on there. There's nothing wrong. It's not like a
No.
complaint or anything. Put your name, your address, and I'd like to see this.
And those are the ones that we count.
You just fill that out on the part of the questions. Scott?
Yeah, so I agree with John. I think that as we look at this piece of property, and I've voiced my opinion on it before, is that we need to look at how we can serve a larger percentage of the community with some kind of facility. You know, and as I've made my argument before, is that if you limit it to a sport, you limit it to maybe 2 months of use. When you have decent weather in March and you get decent weather till the beginning of November, you could have something that could have a much larger and longer stretch of use for the community as well. So just as we start to consider that, you know, we know that there'll be pressure. There'll be pressure for youth sports. There'll be pressure for school-based sports. But that's a limited use. I have a child who played on the middle school football team. They were here 3 times in the fall that he was here. And there was nothing else that took place on this field other than 3 middle school football games.
All right. Anyone else?
Keeping my mouth shut
What's that?
to this because I have a
All
very
right.
different opinion on it.
You want dog
Oh,
park?
yeah, me too.
Nope.
You don't want dog park?
All right.
No, the dog pots are nasty. No, they make dogs sick. They spread germs. Don't get me started on dog parks. I would never let my dog in a dog park.
All right. So put dog park next to Maple Court.
Over on Maple Court, there's a nice area.
It's a nice area right there. Sorry. All right. That's right. We're going to put an attorney right next to Joe's house, so don't worry.
I hope not, Lord.
All right, moving on to, we didn't do selectmen reports, did we?
Nope.
All right. Moving on to selectmen report. First up, Mr. Scott Ruggles.
So just a couple of things this evening. Out of the budget meeting last night, there was a question about, for the new members of the budget committee, being able to procure the basic law of budgeting, the NHMA books, and the funding to be, or if we have copies of them, extra copies, or
Yep.
just the funding for them
Yep.
to be able to do it. So that just came out from last night. So 2 things from where I'm very close to. If you have not noticed, Tilton School is doing a little bit of work to open up the views of the mansion again, so that the town can, even just driving by, that it's a little bit more clear. We've acknowledged the fact that we want that connection, that visual connection with the town to increase a little bit. So some of the shrubbery has been removed from the terraces that were there. Which is a good thing, and it's opening up, and there's a little bit more to come. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to direct them to myself or David Deal. And the other one that Jeannie reminded me of as we were starting today is that Tilton School will be opening a coffee shop downtown, a school-funded coffee shop that we will use as learning experiences for our students, but in one of the shops right down on Main Street. So it's the planning has been going on for months now. So they are finalizing sort of suppliers and things like that. And Joe and I will go get a good cup of coffee down there when it opens up. And so it'll be an exciting addition to the downtown space.
Very nice. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Mr. Joe Jessman.
Okay, today is the last day of the parking ban. Ta-da. There'll be some who will be really glad to hear that, no doubt. On April 22nd, there's a Zoom go-to-meeting type NHMA recycling and municipal solid waste informational thing. That's a Thursday. The cost is $40. I would like to be able to attend that, as well as to have Kevin attend it.
So moved.
John?
A second.
Yeah. All in
Good.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
On the 25th of May,
Good.
the NRRA is having their annual, I think it's a 4-day meeting, but there's a pat on the back as you go in and a pat on the back as you go out. And there's 2 days in the middle that are educational workshops. And the ones on the Tuesday, it would be Tuesday or Wednesday. The stuff on the Tuesday is not landfills, but transfer station information and recycling, how to get the most out of your recycling box. If we invest in, I don't know, dumpsters, balers, whatever that looks like
potentially. The information is at these two. Those, it's $150 a piece, and that would get us into either or both of the Tuesday and Wednesday. And I would like to go with Kevin again.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perambulation. Perambulation, John and I have been talking about, I even brought in my perambulation file, John, that's a yellow one. And I suggest we don't do it this week. And the reason being is you have to walk through the sticks, literally out there. And if it's all wet, the potential for going up and down and over tree falls and stuff like that. I'm an old man and I can't do that. I'll snap my ankle off. And I would rather wait for it to be dry. It would, if we put it off for 2 weeks, because not this weekend, but the following weekend is the townwide cleanup, which it seems like the last 5 years in a row I've missed because I've been working or out of town. And I need to hit the cleanup this year, John. So the following Saturday, which would be what, first week in May?
May 8th.
May 1st, May Day.
Mayday?
May Day?
Yeah. I mean, weather driven, but yeah.
Okay.
I went out, there's a couple places
Can I
there where
study
it's
this?
just flat out wet anyway, never mind if it's been raining or have snow on the ground, which we're supposed to have Saturday morning.
It's kind of hard to paint something that's wet.
And there is that as well.
Okay.
So if you're good with that, then
I'm pretty
May
flexible.
1st.
So just,
And who knows, maybe we'll end up getting some other help with it too. And it's an all-day process, no doubt.
at least.
Okay. And I think that's all that I've got.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that's me. I'm next. I'd like to apologize for being tardy today. I was at work. My boss said, "See you later." And I looked at the clock and it said 4:30 and I said a word and I ran out the door. But on that, I didn't get a note from Jeannie, so I don't know if it's appropriate. But the state of New Hampshire mask mandate ends tomorrow. So I would imagine that leaves us with a decision to make about wearing masks at town hall, because it still allows for rules to be made for public and private businesses.
Right, the governor's lifting the mask mandate, but still leaving it up to the individual cities, towns, and businesses of how they want to handle mask wearing.
So we have to figure out if we still want masks to be
It
continued.
ends tomorrow?
Yes,
It's the rumor is that he'll take it down tomorrow.
Yeah.
he'd already announced it.
Strong, that
Yeah.
it's very, very, I think he used 4 varies.
So we still have to wear it tomorrow.
I don't know. Does it end at midnight tonight or?
After the announcement? I'm not sure.
No, he announced it today.
Yeah.
At 3 o'clock, he held a press conference and there's,
Okay.
the mask mandate lifts
Mhm.
April 15th. But does that mean when the clock strikes 12 tonight, we can all run around without a mask? I don't know. John?
You know, I forget when we put ours into effect, but I think we should keep it in town hall, especially for people visiting for a while. Let some more people get their second shots and get, caught up, watch the numbers go down some more. I don't think it's that difficult, but I'll leave that up to our town administrator to how she feels like the other employees would feel about it too.
I haven't asked them. There was an email that came out and said, and this was from a business, it said, as New Hampshire is currently in the midst of the highest COVID-19 spike since February 5th, and only 25% of the Granite state population has been fully vaccinated, we are continuing to require that all staff and guests wear a mask when in our business. While Governor Sununu has lifted the state's mandate as of April 16th, he has left the discretion and flexibility to local cities, towns, and businesses and schools to continue mask requirements as they see fit. So I've read that somewhere else too, that we're in the midst of a COVID spike, but the bottom line is I haven't asked because this just came out, so I didn't have a chance to ask staff today about it. So whatever the board wants, I mean, I can ask.
Status quo.
I'd say status quo for now. I'm living in a world where every school in my district that I drive has COVID positive right now. I say status quo.
It's on the rise in Belknap County.
Yep.
So,
Oh, yeah, very much so.
and I believe they're narrowing down to the UK variant, which flows through the teenage group quickly.
Right, that's the younger set.
So,
So,
So keep the masks on
so
for now.
I guess that's the consensus to keep the mask mandate in place in town, inside
Town buildings.
town buildings. Town buildings.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. John Scanlon, you're up next. Oh,
First, I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but the shrubs are gone from around timetable Mabel, and she looks beautiful.
I'll
So
check
she
it out.
does. It just really stands out. That was great. I did not expect that to be. I mean, he's all over stuff when it comes to it. It's making a big thing. One of the other things coming up, and find the date, Earth Day.
25th of April, I think.
Yeah.
When is it?
I think it's the 25th of April.
Yeah, it's come up pretty quick. It would be nice to encourage some like pickup around town, some of the trash and that, and get people involved. I don't know if we found out anything about those blue bags that the state gives out for it.
It's April 22nd, which is a Thursday. It's next Thursday. I
Or maybe
did,
the weekend after, schedule another town type event, and encourage people and get those blue bags.
I don't think, I've been told those aren't available anymore from the state.
Yes, I know I've seen them around, so I don't know what they're doing. Is the state still doing pickup on state roads?
Don't know.
We have
So-
purple bags.
It would be nice to have, some type of thing to encourage people to pick up vacant lots around them alongside their roads and that. It's getting pretty bad, and it's especially when people see that there's already trash and they just throw more, and everyone says there's too much to pick up, so I'm not going to. But so that would be nice to try and coordinate something with that. As everybody knows, Franklin is going to be doing quite the water park for kayaking. And I think there's some other things that are going to biking, mountain biking, I think, and stuff like that they're going to be doing down there through Franklin. So this is a great opportunity to get more people stopping in to Tilton for the businesses and all that. And I hope everybody's prepared for that and make our town look real nice. And that's about it.
all right. And we have to take care of a little business for you. Swear you in for conservation.
I get-
I
last
already
week.
sworn in. I swore him in last week.
I didn't say swear at him. I said swear him in.
I did that too.
All right. Sorry, I was just going through the folder and it was in there. So, all right, never mind.
Yep.
Then we'll go to Miss Pat Constantino.
All right. So I wanted to report that Senior Center had an open house. The response was overwhelming. I mean, the seniors came in, there were tears in their eyes just coming in. being a part of something again. It was just overwhelming. There were 19 people that came. There was coffee and donuts. We couldn't play games because we would have to do that cleaning and all of that kind of thing, but they were just happy to come in and socialize. We have to do it again soon. I wanted to talk to you tonight about the police station, but we have one thing ahead of time. I know that there was a birthday here recently, and so we'd like to wish Jeannie a happy birthday.
Yay.
Happy birthday
Birthday
to
to you.
you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Jeannie.
Face with it.
Happy
Happy birthday
birthday
to
to you. Yay, cake.
We did not put candles on there for a reason.
I was expecting to see the 20 candles.
Not this year.
Pat's not going for that?
No, because then you'd
Thank
have
you.
to
That was very nice. Thank you.
cake that you couldn't share.
Did you make that yourself, Pat?
Yeah, the fire department's still cleaning up.
To my house. Well, while, Tim, are you gonna cut it up and everything?
Oh, I would be the last.
So do you want to take 5 and have some cake, or do you want to come back?
Yeah, well, we have, we're
Are we up
We're-
on schedule or no?
we're ahead of schedule.
Can we take 5 and have some
Do
cake?
you have anything else on your,
Yes, I have one thing, the police department.
let's do that real quick.
Oh, well, I don't know if it's quick, but we'll do
Well,
it.
all right, let's do cake
All
then.
right, so,
Let's do the, that wants to try. Go ahead.
okay.
Police
so
department.
I have been approached by a lot of people, and the issue is switching the squad room to the detectives room, and it's mostly probably the problems that we have is during the shift change. If they're on the phone or whatever, there's little or no space in the squad room for when there's a lot of officers in there at one time. And there's right now only one detective in that very large room. However, I did speak with Lisa, and the detective's room is being used in a different way with the detective, but there's only going to be one detective in there, maybe 2 at the very most. So I kind of was thinking perhaps maybe as a compromise, maybe moving, if we don't want to move the squad room, that would be my first choice, moving the squad room over and switching the detectives over to that room over here, because that squad room the detectives room is a much bigger room. And that would cost a little bit of money. And I did ask Tim to weigh in on that and find out what that cost would be, because we would need a door and we would need a couple of drops and moving the equipment around and so on. And I think Jeannie and Tim should weigh in on the pros and cons of that as well. And then I'll chime in at the end on that.
I think, I mean, this is a discussion that has been going on for quite a while, even, I guess, as the walls went up and we started looking at space. And when you look at the fact that, as Pat said, even in its built out as far as detectives, you're going to have 2 people in, and the space we're talking about. If you haven't, maybe we should go down and take a look, but it's an extremely large space with an office for 2 people. And then you have the squad room that has 8, that has 2 supervisors in one office in the back. So it's just, it looks so lopsided, and you hear, I have heard since I've been working in the building, people, it's so obvious, like why is it the way that it is? And I've heard some of the reasoning that the reason that they have the squad room down there is that's because where the break room is, it's more convenient for them. The patrol officers will tell you that, when they were in the old building, the break room was downstairs, so that's not an issue for them as far as walking. They're closer to the Sally Port down here. So there's just, it has continued, here in the building, hearing from people saying why is this? Why can't we switch this? One of the things that you might want to consider doing is an anonymous survey and asking people, because I think some might not want to say how they feel. I don't know, but that might be something you want to consider doing to see what people have to say. It is their space, and if it's not working for them, maybe we should listen to them.
There's, so as a liaison, and many offices have approached me, and there's only one that does not want to have this, that of the ones that have approached me, and that's the detective that does not want to make the change. And, frankly, if I were the detective as well, I wouldn't want to make the change either, because that would be my room. It's a plush room.
Well, I was just going to say that during the design process, I thought it was very odd, and I was advocating personally for more of a bullpen area like what Moultonborough had. And I was reminded recently, because I've been feeling the same way, that from the get-go, even when we started seeing the metal studs going up, thinking, boy, this is going to be awfully small. But it was built that way by design, and I was reminded recently that in that design process, even Laconia, which has some 40 sworn officers, has a space not much larger than what the squad room is, because the intention is that the officers should be out on the road and not, I don't want to use the word,
Hanging out.
or lingering in the squad room. So it was intentionally designed to be of that size, although every practical bone in my body says it's crazy, the square footage compared to what the square footage is on the other side. However, the other aspects of this, which are really more of management aspect, but there used to be in the old building, when someone was in the booking area, the officer could easily sit in the squad room and work on a report. They could hear, they could see on the camera. And if the squad room is where investigations is now, it's very likely that in place of having, because it was said that in the whole build process that it was required for an officer to be in the booking area if there was someone in one of the cells because of the sight sound separation in there. So if you have the squad room that close to the booking area, it might be very tempting to go and finish working on a report, checking in with someone else in the squad room, getting something. In other words, not being in the booking area. So that was one of the other reasons cited to me that the squad room was put way over on that side. And also, as Jeannie pointed out, it is close to the break room, but it's also close to their kit room, their weapons and armory, and where they were intended to exit the building and get in the squad car when they were called out. So when there's a call, they're supposed to grab their, whatever they have and run down that hallway out to their vehicle and out onto the road. So the other aspect of this is, I know that recently, so the three components that we would have to look at, one would be putting in a door to the current squad area, which was left open as part of the value engineering. In other words, reducing the cost of the building. They left that open to the hallway. Detectives would have to have that closed and have a door there. We looked into the cost of that. There's also temporary evidence that is off of the detectives area right now, and that has a great deal of equipment in it. One of the other rooms that is either used for uniform storage or weapons storage would have to be used for temporary evidence down on that side. So that would mean moving some things there. And we did outfit those rooms with data and data ports for their body cameras in both those areas. So if we were to move and if they required their kit room down near the squad room, we'd also have to put in more drops down there because there aren't enough now. The other aspect is the interview rooms. So the big draw for the whole investigative and detective area was that they've got the interview rooms right there. And when they would have other agencies come in, and most recently, I think Jeannie and I heard that the FBI was here, 2 people from the FBI waiting to interview someone. That person was brought into one of the inner interview rooms, because there's one off the lobby and then one off the one closer and right off of the detective area. And that once they were, and I guess this is the area where they more hard interviews occur, and the FBI or any other agency, they're able to listen in on what's going on in that interview room. And then also they can be, either the person could be brought into the room where they are, or they can access them, through right there. The doors open right into that investigative area. So there are, there are just a number of considerations to look at. It is a big, juicy square footage area, no question about it. It only makes practical sense, but I just think that, if we were looking to have the officers on the road all the time, maybe a better use of the $5,000 or $6,000 it might cost to do this upfitting, which is roughly not to exceed $6,000, not including data ports if they have to move their body cameras, but it might be better spent putting it towards half the cost of IMC Mobile, which would allow them to do all their work in the squad car right off the patrol PC and communicate right back into our server here. Right now, the IMC mobiles in the car communicate with Belknap County. We don't pay for IMC Mobile, Belknap County pays for it. So that's just kind of my take on it.
So all of that, are you in favor or are you not in favor? You went this way with it.
Well, I'm just trying to present.
You did.
I think I'd like to know a little bit more information. I'd want to refresh the quote on IMC Mobile. I think I'd want to talk to the director and get his take on it. I've certainly heard from patrol. I mean, I've heard what's going on, but if you look at their schedule, there's a couple of peak times during the week where they've got a shift change, and that's when the real congestion occurs. Other than that, during the day, you might have one person in there, 2 people in there at most. So I'd need more information personally.
I think you get that information from the people who are working in the building.
So what if we ask Jeannie, Tim, and Lisa to put their heads together and see if they can come up with a solution?
John?
I think maybe if we wait till we get a new chief that can make some of those decisions and stuff like that. And, I understand the size and all that, but this building was specifically laid out for workflow, just as like, in houses where you have kitchens and refrigerators, stoves and sinks. We have where the police cars, the patrol cars park, and they have direct access to locker rooms, their weapons, to place to do their reports, their actual administration that oversees them, as well as their exercise room, their break room, and their bathrooms and that. If we go and move it up front now it creates traffic through this area out here that is open to the public. Then we have trainings and meetings and other people who come in for these. It's just something I said wrong or the public? Oh, I didn't know.
This isn't open to the public.
When we have trainings and that we have other people that are in here, could be civilians, whatever. So it's like more the area that's other people are in. So if there'll be traffic of police officers going back and forth. So, and it's quite a bit of work to, I look at the flow and the design and the way, like the interrogation rooms that they have, an area where somebody who is viewing it would be, and the way the video and everything was set up for that. It's all workflow in that, and I understand everyone's a bigger place, but I think, I like the IMC being out into the cars on the road and maybe so they're out in the community.
No, I was on the committee. I saw the original designs, and you wouldn't be saying what you were saying right now if you saw the original designs. And somewhat influenced by the people that work here today. So they were influenced by that. Without any chief influence or anything else. They were influenced by the people that worked here. So the changes were designed, the designs were changed by that several times. So people make changes and then all of a sudden you look at it and you say, well, geez, maybe it wasn't such a great idea. What we're working with. All I'm saying.
Joe, Scott?
Would it be good for Tim and Lisa and Tim and Lisa and Jeannie to collect the information that you're talking about, and then when we have a new chief, then go from there with it? Whether it's polling or doing a survey or doing a questionnaire for the current people who are here, and then when we get down to the point where we do have a new chief, then you can sit and sort of start to make a decision from there. So then you've got the information collected, and then after that.
I'm not inclined to spend another $5,000-6,000 at this time.
That was my thought. So somewhere along the line, we had to come up with some direction for Jeannie. So I would it be fair to say that collect the information and we'll make.
I'll put together some kind of an anonymous survey and get people to respond and bring that to you.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing so far that would make me think that we want to go out of our way to switch the building around. If there's a reason, I haven't heard it.
And I think you'll get that information in the survey.
Okay.
All right. Survey it is.
That'll do.
Pat, John?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
All I wanted.
All right. Anything else?
Motion to eat cake.
Well,
Second.
wait. Should we?
There's a motion on the floor, buddy.
All right.
Recess.
Overruled.
We'll pause for a brief recess.
This
Yeah.
conference will now be recorded.
All right. The time being 7:03 p.m. I'd like to make a motion to move into non-public per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected has a right, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a public meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. We expect to be back in the public session at 7:45 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Roll call vote.
Constantino, yes?
Chessman, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
All right. We stand in non-public. You didn't stop the recording, Tim.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public meeting of April 15th, 2021, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain.
Second?
Second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business that needs to become before the board this evening? Ooh, I got a choice. I'll go with Mr. Jessen.
At one time, speaking of non-publics, at one time, we were gonna eventually start releasing non-publics, but that was 6 months ago, and, I'm just wondering what the status of that was.
So what you were going to do is start reviewing the non-publics, and we will start doing that. We've got them, and we
Oh,
can.
okay.
So just to be clear, we had talked about two different things. One was unsealing non-publics that needed to be unsealed, and we do review that periodically. And when there's something we think in the office that you can unseal, we'll bring it to you and you can unseal. So we're always looking at that. But what we haven't been doing is having you review the non-public minutes. And we were in a virtual mode, so that was difficult to do. Now that we're back meeting in person, we can start that up. And we'll start doing that. That can take, do you want to start with 2 sets each meeting or 1 set? How do you
Hey,
want to?
it's your convenience.
Okay,
All right.
Anything is better than what we got going on now, so
okay. All right. Can do that.
thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome, Joe.
Pat,
I just want to remind the board that I will not be present next week. I will try my very best to be online. I doubt it.
Oh, good luck.
all right. Thank you. Anything else?
One last thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All right. Multiple seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye.